Okay, well, you mentioned then before when you were talking about working through the recession that you'd basically gone out there, you'd started knocking on doors, and you got business even in a tough time.
Yes.
How is there the sort of brand of the Brazilian IT companies growing? Because for a visitor here, I can see clearly that the industry has the big multinationals. There is the HP, Accenture, IBM employing a lot of people in Brazil, and then there's also the indigenous industry. So there's a few brand names now that are starting to get visibility. How are you as one of those companies getting more visibility in markets like the US and competing against the multinationals hiring all the local resource?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, a very good point. What we do is we speak with results. We've been in the market for 40 years. Mitsubishi Corporation is one of our investors. So we have the multinational brand in the organization because they decided and they did big due diligence which IT company they would invest in. So we have a really blue chip name behind the organization. We help we leverage for branding and credibility, but at the end the results are what count. So when we try to leverage the things that are Brazil is in the news. That's the good news. Brazil as a country, an economy, and many things, many companies are in the news. So in the U.S., people start understanding what value means. When InBev acquires Anheuser-Busch, then it gets a lot of attention. Petrobras finding all the oil is a household name. So that's a great example. So Petrobras is our largest customer in Brazil. So we, in tough economic times, we focused in the Texas area in the oil and gas industry. And through that reference alone, we acquired several oil and gas clients. All of those have operations in Brazil. They all operate SAP. SAP, we're very strong in the SAP market. So we're able to help them expand. They're all getting ready because Petrobras found all the oil. So everybody's gearing up for increased production and increased business volume. So we started, through that credibility we have with Petrobras. The CIO of Petrobras is willing to meet with the CIO of another major suppliers and talk about us.
To give a reference.
That gives the credibility you need. And
Would you say that that's the most important thing about this kind of business? I mean, that idea that you've got referenceability. One of your clients will speak on your behalf.
For me personally, that's always the best way to win credibility.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter when because we're always talking about I'm an IT company from Brazil or I'm an IT company from India. People always talk about where the company's headquartered, but isn't the point really that one company buys from another company? And it doesn't matter where they're headquartered, but if that company can show you reference clients and a track record, then they'll win business.
And show what they're doing in terms of the facilities. That's why we really encourage, because it's a lot of evangelism. That's why it's so important what you're doing and getting the word out there, educating, because it's just Latin America does not have an IT connotation. We don't think about Latin America, it's synonymous with IT. But when people come here, you can speak for your own experience, and they start seeing from a provider, for example, that you have biometric, iris scan, security entrance for, because we've been working in the financial industry for so many years. We have to respect the highest standards of security. And when you look at those facilities and you come in here and see, and then you talk to the client themselves, I think that clears, and then you talk about methodology. So we're in 1 month we're celebrating 40 years anniversary of the company. So we've been in business for 40 years. We've been through very challenging times with the high inflation years. So that's what another great anecdote I like to use. A very big weakness of this country had to made the IT sector a great asset, because when you have tough times and the banking industry is so strong in IT these days because of that weakness. In the 80s we had to wire money between accounts from between banks instantaneously. Because you were losing 3% a day if your money was wired somewhere in between, or if it was standing in your checking account.
So
in order to enable that, the technology had to overcompensate for that that economic weakness. And today, Brazil is taking advantage of that.
And it's true. In the banking system in the UK, it's still normal to take about 3 days to transfer money from one bank to another. And I guess we just never had that need. Yeah, yeah. What do you see in terms of training people for the future in the IT industry in Brazil? I think one of the big problems India had was, as the industry grew very fast, they started finding it hard to get the right people into the industry. Do you think that there's something happening like that already in Brazil, or is there the scope for this to happen? And if so, is it up to the industry or academia to do something?
I think it's a three-way thing. It's the industry. We do a lot and work with a lot of institutions and universities with special education programs, to get quick, recruits into the organizations. The market itself, we have a great education system and very good universities here. So the level of and we talk about how many PhDs are coming out of these schools. Obviously, if you want to export resources and you have an economy growing as fast as it is now, you need to do something about that. You need to increase the scale. But that's where the government comes in. Yeah. And I think that what institutions like BRASSCOM are doing is excellent, because they're really pushing the government and educating that this is a big need and this is an opportunity that we're not going to be able to take advantage of if you don't focus on growing the scale, but also focusing on certain things like language, the English language, for example, which is very important.
So if you were looking forward to the next year, let's say we were going to meet again at the BRASSCOM Forum 2011, what do you think will be the sort of the biggest change in the industry, or even if it's just perception?
I hope that we're going to make a big step forward, because the recession really had people kind of getting scared into their operations, getting lean as they could, and focusing on the bottom line. And I see a big increase in activity, because you can't repress your investment in IT for such a long time. The business is still evolving, the business users are still asking for improvements, and suddenly we see now, okay, now we need to do something. So the openness to have discussions about alternatives, and in combination with the whole educational process, we're working with analysts, we're working with journalists, working with partners to really get the word out there. Yeah. And the more references we start getting, because they're all success stories, because it's really easier to do business closer to home. Yeah. And putting it very simply, and the more success cases you have, and really brand names being happy and successful, the quicker the acceptance will be. It's just, that simple. So I hope that next year we'll be just talking about the next great stories and the success going forward, and hopefully the economy continues. And who knows who will win the World Cup?
England, probably.
I think Brazil will have a little bit of a downturn in the next month, because everybody's going to be watching soccer. Yeah, yeah. But I don't think it's going to impact.